if I was out there wiggling my bum and twerking, maybe I wouldn't be getting flagged. But if I was talking about scientifically backed sexual health information, which I am, I seem to be getting into the hot water and at risk of losing my media accounts. So here I am with this podcast, hoping to not be censored and hoping to share this information. Welcome to the Sexuality Clinic Podcast, designed to help you deepen emotional and physical connections, prioritize your pleasure, and build stronger, more intimate relationships. Hosted by Canadian clinical sexologist Roxana Smallwood, that's me. This show offers a shame-free space for candid, science-backed discussions on sexual health, body literacy, anatomy, self-exploration, and relationships, both solo and partnered. From understanding the nuances of intimacy and pleasure to building healthier, more fulfilling relationships, this podcast is your go-to guide for all things sex and connection. Join us as we dive into conversations about sexuality, love, and relationships, while also tackling topics like sexual expression, communication, and self-care. You'll gain practical advice to help you enhance pleasure, strengthen your relationships, and embrace your body and desires without shame. If you're ready to prioritize your pleasure and start building the intimate life you deserve, tune in now and don't forget to download my free checklist, join the waitlist for my online course, or check out my online adult shop at thesexualityclinic.com. Subscribe today and start your journey toward more confident, connected, and pleasurable relationships. Before we get into today's content, I'd like you to think about whether you've experienced painful intercourse. How did you handle the situation? Did you endure the pain? Did you communicate to your partner that you were experiencing pain? Did you just hope that it would be over soon and not speak about it? Did you carry on enduring the pain for future encounters? Did you grab a lubricant? Maybe see if that helped? Did you talk to a healthcare professional? Did you Google it? I'm very curious to see how people handle situations that arise that aren't easily spoken about in today's society. We have a hard time being honest about our experiences. I mean, I hope you don't. I may be generalizing here. The reason I've started this podcast is to try to reduce some of the shame and try to ignore the taboo around sensuality and sexuality and really connect with folks who need to hear the message that they matter, their needs matter, their pleasure matters, and that it's okay to ask for what you want. But to be honest, one of the main reasons clients come to me is because they don't even know what they want. So it's okay to explore. There's no normal. We shouldn't have our sensual or sexual life looking any particular way. I know we're exposed to a ton of adult media all over that internet machine, and some of those exposures can be damaging. I mean, we're going to get into this in next week's episode, but there is a lot to be said about what we see in pornography, magazine covers, social media, relating to what our bodies should look like, what our sex should look like, what our roles should look like in our relationships. All of these shoulds need to go out the window. And what really matters is your values, your feelings, your voice being heard, your needs being met, and your satisfaction forevermore. So having the confidence and the courage to speak up when you're experiencing things like painful intercourse or other uncomfortable topics related to sex, relationships, anatomy, body literacy, that's what I'm here for. As these things arise, I would love for you to pop them into a note, send them my way so I can possibly create a podcast episode that you might find beneficial. Because chances are, if you're having an issue or you have concerns or questions, somebody else does. So you'll be doing everyone else a favor by sending a note in letting me know what you'd like to see a topic on next. Not saying that I know everything. I am here learning alongside you. This podcast is designed to be something that opens up conversation. I am always learning. In fact, I struggle with some imposter syndrome and always have, wondering if I have the right credentials, if I know the right information. And thankfully for me, the right information isn't necessarily out there in the field of sensuality and sexuality because we haven't invested our tax dollars into research in this area. Talking about anatomy, body literacy, sensuality, sexuality, relationships, either solo or partnered, is my jam. And I cannot wait to carry on this journey of learning with you alongside. So, welcome. I'm Roxana. I am looking forward to discussing our topic today, which is painful intercourse. The medical term for painful intercourse is dyspareunia. It is lasting or recurrent genital pain that occurs just before, during, or after sex. Talk with your healthcare professional if you are having painful intercourse. Of course, you can go ahead and carry on listening for some tips and tricks. However, I do like to state that disclaimer that I am not a medical doctor, and I encourage you to speak to your medical doctor or your healthcare professionals. Pain is serious, and you do not need to endure the pain. There are solutions for you. So, today we're discussing a topic that affects many people, but often isn't talked about enough: painful intercourse, or dyspareunia, as I've mentioned. It's something that can cause emotional and physical distress and affect relationships deeply. The good news is there are ways to resolve it, and I'm here to offer some solutions as well as some important cautions. We'll also explore my go-to lubricant suggestions and the concept of sexual non-concordance. Let's get right into the causes of painful intercourse. It can actually be caused by many factors, ranging from medical conditions to psychological and emotional factors. It might be due to a lack of lubrication, could be hormonal changes like during menopause, or even just in your cycles throughout the month. Could be related to infections or pelvic floor dysfunction, but it's important to note that emotional factors such as stress or trauma can also contribute to discomfort. So before diving into potential solutions, it's essential to consult with that healthcare professional to identify the root cause of the pain. For example, maybe you're having pain because your muscles are very tight. Now, some people might think, oh, I should be doing my Kegels all the time. You know what? It's not always the case. Sometimes our muscles are too tight. Sometimes the muscles need tightening. Seeing someone like a pelvic floor physiotherapist might be a great place to start because they can do a proper physical assessment and give you the tips and tricks that you need to have success in strengthening either the right muscles or working on exercises to sort of loosen things up. One of the first solutions, though, that has helped a number of my clients is lubrication. Often dryness is a major cause of discomfort during sex. Think about the penis like a sponge. Okay, so I'm talking about penis and vagina intercourse right now. I know that there are many different types of sex. Sex does not need to be penis and vagina intercourse. Okay, so what I am talking about right now, though, is penis and vagina intercourse. So that penis is essentially like a massive sponge coming on in to soak up all of your natural lubrication, usually within the first 3 to 5 minutes. So, depending on the position, your lubrication may be falling to the back, causing friction. If you take your hand right now and try to stick your finger into your fist, so take your right finger, point it up in the air, take your left fist, squeeze it real tight so nothing's going to enter. How does that work out? If you try to stick that finger on your right hand into your fist, is it sliding? Can you easily reject it? I'm not having any success. Now, if I take a water-based lubricant and I place a small amount at the opening of my fist and I take my finger, guess what? There is no resisting it. So having that little bit of lubrication can reduce the friction. And I'm not talking you need buckets of lubrication here. Usually a half pump from one of the goodies that I carry. I personally like to recommend the Wicked Sensual Care Simply line. They have flavors like passion fruit. They also have aqua, which is unflavored. They've got it in a jelly as well. So their aqua is quite liquidy. A little tiny squirt in the right spot will just sort of spread nicely and will last quite a while. They are water-based lubricants. I'll talk more about a variety of lubricants that are available a little later in the episode. Starting with a lubrication can be a great place to go. So often dryness is a major cause of discomfort during sex. So using a high quality water-based lubricant can help reduce friction and make the experience more pleasurable. Another solution for painful intercourse could be pelvic floor exercises. As I mentioned, strengthening the pelvic floor can make a big difference in easing pain during intercourse. Kegel exercises, for example, can help increase circulation and strengthen the muscles, which can help to alleviate pain. Now, as I also mentioned previously, tightening the muscles is not always the solution. So sometimes the pelvic floor muscles are too tense, which makes it challenging to have penetration. I've got a set of dilators here. Basically, these dilators are kind of like little dildos with a flared base. These particular ones are relatively flexible and they range in size from smaller than my pinky finger all the way through to quite girthy. I mean, girthy and long. This one here is certainly a little bit bigger than maybe the average penis size, and there are 4 sizes in between. So what you would want to do with a set of vaginal dilators if you're having painful intercourse is you would use a lubricant and you would start with the smallest size, and you could just go ahead and work yourself up to the size that you're feeling comfortable with. So that is one offer of a solution. Also, try to make yourself a little relaxed. You don't want to just start straight into intercourse. Now, this goes for regular encounters with partners or for solo play. Treat yourself to a little bit of relaxation, setting the scene, maybe the lighting. Have a little fun with your intimate setup so that you can feel comfortable and at ease. Communication and patience here is one of the next points to discuss around solutions. So, open dialogue with your partner is key. Take the time to communicate what feels comfortable and what doesn't. Again, rushing into intercourse without adequate arousal or preparation can exacerbate the pain. Being mindful and setting some time for some relaxation can sometimes ease the anxiety about intercourse. You can have a vicious cycle of discomfort if you are concerned about the pain that you may have experienced previously. Practicing mindfulness, meditation, and other relaxation techniques can reduce anxiety and tension around sex, so it can make it a more enjoyable experience. Finally, here we've got medical treatment. So, for those with underlying conditions, it's a great idea to seek medical treatment. Things like endometriosis or vaginismus, they may require intervention. So, it's always a good idea, again, to go back to that healthcare provider to rule out any serious issues. Now, I wanted to mention on the topic of lubrication something called sexual non-concordance. This is a term explained beautifully by Dr. Emily Nagoski in a book called Come As You Are. It's a fabulous read. I highly recommend it. She also has another book called Come Together. Come As You Are sort of focuses on female bodied individuals kind of having the base information that we often missed in our sexual health education growing up. So she really talks through a whole host of concerns and things that she wished everyone would have known. And she also speaks about how sexual health educators are not necessarily getting the message out. Now, this is an issue I find because I've been trying to spread sexual health information, but I end up getting flagged on social media. And if I was out there wiggling my bum and, and twerking, maybe I wouldn't be getting flagged. But if I was talking about scientifically backed sexual health information, which I am, I seem to be getting into the hot water and at risk of losing my media accounts. So here I am with this podcast, hoping to not be censored and hoping to share this information. So the sexual non-concordance, it occurs when the body responds in a sexual way, like a lubrication or an erection, even when the mind isn't on board, or vice versa. So basically it's saying that wow, you become lubricated in your vaginal area but you're actually not interested in the offer of intimacy or sexual experience or sexual act. It can go vice versa. You could be dry and very interested. This is something people experience often. I don't like to use the word normal because it's just not helpful in many cases, but it is quite common to experience sexual non-concordance. And if you go on to read Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, you'll be surprised to see how somehow even really quite horrible cases of mistreatment of people have been documented where the perpetrator says, well, they were wet, so meant that they wanted it. Being wet is not consent. Let's just get that clear. So it's important to understand that, especially in the context of painful intercourse, being wet is not consent. Do we hear that? Doesn't matter. If you have an erection, that does not mean you must have sex. Okay, that is also not consent. So having your body react in a certain way does not provide consent for any sort of sexual acts. Make sure that you are using your words to communicate your consent, or your non-consent. Sometimes, even if your body physically responds to stimuli, your brain might not be in sync, which can lead to discomfort. Jen Gunter in the Vagina Bible emphasizes the importance of understanding your body's signals and not pressuring yourself based on physical responses alone. So, Dr. Jen Gunter wrote the book, The Vagina Bible, which was actually the first book that I read on sexual health. And if you are a vagina owner, I highly recommend taking a read of that book. It addresses all of the topics that people have come to her in her gynecological practice with, sort of summarizes everything. And it really talks a lot about this concept of normal as well. It starts with some kind of a cheeky note about how this book is for anyone who's ever been told that they are too wet, too smelly, too dry, too anything, usually by some dude. Anyhow. Okay, so cautions and when to seek help. So while there are plenty of solutions to try, it's important to be cautious and aware. If the pain persists despite trying these solutions, or if the pain is sudden and severe, seek medical attention immediately. Persistent pain may indicate an underlying condition like an infection or more serious issue that requires professional treatment. In Michael Castleman's research on sexual health, he reminds us that taking the time to address the issues early on can prevent long-term problems. Now, when I talk about addressing painful intercourse early on, what I suggest is to not allow it to prevent you from interacting. Keep playing. Enjoy your sensuality, your sexuality, explore your body, and don't stop for years at a time. So if you're experiencing pain, seek help, get a good lubricant, and perhaps grab an aid like this Stronic Petite that I carry, which is a pulsator. It's got magnets inside, so it kind of has like a bit of a thrusting motion, but it's meant to kind of help you keep that sensation and the tissue and everything alive and healthy and the blood flow. So this one has won awards for how amazing it is, especially when it comes to libido. With 15 minutes use every day for 30 days, the libido of the women who were menopausal, it was up significantly. So very cool to see what different kinds of toys or gadgets might be out there, and I'm always available for a chat if you'd like to reach out with any questions about what might work for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. If you or someone you know is experiencing painful intercourse, remember, you do not have to suffer in silence. Visit my website at thesexualityclinic.com for more resources, for possible items that you might be interested in. For example, we've got some silicone lubricant. So Uberlube is a fabulous silicone lubricant, very slippery. That one's not going to absorb into your skin. So the two primary types of lubricant that I recommend are either water-based or silicone-based. There are other types out there. I typically recommend that everyone have a water-based lubricant because those are very gentle. This Wicked one here is with no glycerin, no propylene glycol, no parabens. It's enriched with signature olive leaf extract, and it's a pH balanced formula. So it's great for all types of play. As I mentioned, the Aqua Jelly is a little thicker. So that one's a bit more of a cushiony lubricant, whereas the Aqua is quite thin in texture and consistency. I also carry something called a Woohoo personal lubricant. That's a water-based. And then we've got some flavored and some warming or cooling lubricants as well. The variety of lubricants out there can honestly be a little overwhelming. If you're looking for something basic in either world, I do recommend Uberlube as a silicone or Wicked as the water-based. So if you have any personal stories that you might like me to share or explore on my podcast, I would love for you to send me a note. You can email me at Roxanna, Roxanna, at thesexualityclinic.com, or you can drop me a line on my website contact form. That's at thesexualityclinic.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcast, please, because your feedback will help us to reach more listeners. If you can leave a physical typed out review, I believe that Apple Podcast is the way to do it. Your entry will be considered for a future giveaway. So thank you so much for your support. Drop any questions. If there's a topic that you'd like me to cover in one of my future episodes, please let me know. Next week, we're going to be covering the use of adult media and how it can enhance or maybe not enhance your personal and partnered relationships. Thanks so much for tuning in. It has been a slice. Talk to you soon. Remember, your pleasure is your responsibility.